What's up, guys? Today we are talking about Unit 7.3. We are still in this packet. We're going to be on pages 10 through 11. Today's learning target is I can find the missing sides of right triangles using 30, 60, 90 properties. Okay, so last time we talked about our first special right triangle, which was 45, 45, 90. Today we're talking about 30, 60, 90 right triangles. Okay, same idea. In this situation, if, for instance, we had the short leg labeled as in, and this side was labeled as 2n, what's going to be our third side? So we're just going to briefly discuss an example of how we could use the Pythagorean theorem to find out what this side would be. Okay, not going to take a ton of time on this because this won't show up on your test, but I just want to show you how you would get there. Okay, so let me pick an example. Let's say n was 3. So if this was A, B, and C, let's say n was 3. So I had 3 squared right here. That would make, I still don't know b squared, c squared, 2 times n. Okay, so if n was 3, this n was 3, 2 times 3 would equal 6. So let's say c was 6 squared. Okay, again, this is detailed. This isn't exactly what you need, but I'm just showing you kind of how we get there. This would be our equation. If we're trying to figure out what this side is, this would be our equation. We're trying to find b squared. So 3 squared would be 9 plus b squared equals 36. Subtract by 9 on both sides. B squared would equal 25. Divide both sides. Hold up. Yep. It would be 27, my fault. 27. Okay, divide both sides by that, or find the square root of both sides. So we would have b equals the square root of 27. So this side right here would be equal to the square root of 27. A bummer because it's not a perfect square, so we got to reduce that. We got to simplify it. So the square root of 27 would be 9 and 3. That would simplify even more to 3 and 3. So we'd have a pair of 3's, which would go on the outside, a box 3, which would go on the inside. Again, all of that is just from 7.1, so I went through that one pretty quick. So in other words, b would equal 3 square root of 3. Okay. So in this 30, 60, 90 triangle, if this side is 3, this side is going to be 2 times 3, which is 6. Okay. And this side is going to be just simply in root 3. So we've kind of figured out our pattern. This is going to be in, 2n, and in root 3. Okay, if you're like, whoa, Mr. Colson, I lost you there. It's okay. I went through that one fast because really all you need to know is this is our rule. This is our rule right here. The side across from 30 degrees is always going to be in. The side across from 30 degrees is always going to be labeled in. The side across from the 90-degree angle is always going to be labeled 2n. The side across from the 60-degree angle is always going to be labeled in root 3. Okay? So guys, that's our rule. If you were here for us, if you watched the 45, 45, 90 video, you should be fine. Like, you got this. Okay? So let's just do the same steps we did last time to solve this. Okay, same exact steps as we did for the 45, 45, 90 triangle, but except we have a new picture. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to label our triangle. So as you can see from our picture, the side across from the 30-degree angle, the side across from the 30-degree angle is going to be labeled in. Okay, what about 60? The side across from the 60-degree angle is going to be labeled in square root of 3. The side across from the 90-degree angle is obviously the last one, which is 2n. If you're struggling with labeling that, maybe rewind the video, watch that again. Notice how I label things based on what angle it's across from. Okay? Now, what do? We circle what is given, okay? So this is the one angle, or sorry, excuse me, the one side that we know. X and Y aren't helpful, but we do know that 4 equals n, so we can make an equation like this, n equals 4. So because we know that n is 4, I'm going to be able to replace wherever I see n with the number 4. It's very simple. This one's pretty simple. So x would now be, instead of 2n, it'd be 2 times 4, which would be 8. So x would equal 8. All right, all I did was double the value of n. Okay, what about this one? Instead of n root 3, I'm going to have 4 root 3. So y would equal 4 root 3. Okay, so the short leg, this guy, is 4. The hypotenuse is 8, which makes sense because remember our rule is 2 times n. And then our third side, our long leg, is 4 square root of 3. All right, that's kind of what that looks like. If I were you, I would pause the video and try to do this one on your own real quick. And then see if you did it right. So now I'm going to do this one. First step is I'm going to label my triangle. Across from 30 degrees is always n. Across from 60, or across from 90, let's do that one, is always n, or sorry, 2n. And then across from 60 is always n square root of 3. So we don't know anything about those sides, so we're going to circle what is given, which is this. We can make an equation out of this. 2n equals 10. N is not by itself yet, so we need to solve for n. We're going to divide both sides by 2. N equals 5. So wherever I see n, now I can replace it with the number 5. So x is going to be 5. N over here, instead of y equaling n root 3, it's going to equal 5 root 3. So y is going to equal 5 root 3. Okay. So in this case, here's the difference between these two. In this picture, it gave us the value of n right off the bat. Very simple. 4 equals n. Here we had to solve for n. The side that it gave us was labeled 2n, so we had to figure out that n was actually 5. N was not 10. Okay, so that one's a little bit trickier. The next one's going to give even more trickier. So turn to the next page for me. I believe this is page 11. Okay. Same process though. Notice how I'm using the exact same process every single time. I'm going to label my triangle. Okay, if you do not know how to do this yet, practice doing this on your own. Across from the 30-degree angle is n. Across from the 90-degree angle is 2n, and then the other one is n square root of 3. Make sure you know how to label that. Okay, step 2. Circle what is given. Okay, y and x are not helpful. We're going to circle what is given to us and then make an equation out of that. Okay, so if this is my label, here's my equation. N square root of 3 equals 4 square root of 3. N square root of 3 equals 4 square root of 3. So if you remind yourself, last time we made an equation to solve for n. What did we do? We divided both sides by something because n was not by itself. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to divide both sides by the square root of 3. N is now going to equal 4. N is going to equal 4. So instead of n right here, we're going to replace it with 4. X is going to equal 4. 2 is going to, or y is going to equal 2 times 4, which is 8. Okay. So we've seen kind of all three examples, right? We've seen an example where they give us the short leg. We've seen an example where they give us the hypotenuse. And we've seen an example where they give us the long leg. Those are kind of the bottom line. So if you know how to do all three of those, you're probably good to go. Now, it gets more complicated mathematically, but the process is, you've seen all three types of processes. Okay? Let's take a look at this one. Label the triangle. Okay, label the triangle. Across from 30 is always in. Across from 90 is always 2n. Across from 60 is always in root 3. Hopefully that's starting to feel good to you. We're feeling good. Okay, circle what is given. This is what was given. We make an equation. 13 equals 2n. Is n by itself right now? It is not. So we're going to divide both sides by 2. Now, 13 divided by 2, some of you who are observant will realize that that is not going to be a whole number. Bummer. But if I can use my calculator real quick, Control Enter, I'd get 6.5. So n is actually going to equal 6.5, which is a decimal, which is kind of ugly. I don't love it, but we're going to roll with it. Wherever we see n, I'm going to replace it with 6.5. So x equals 6.5 right there. Instead of n, I'm going to replace it with 6.5. So y equals 6.5 root 3. Okay, so in this one, they gave us the hypotenuse. We had to divide it by 2 in order to figure out these two. All right, let's keep going. Let's take a look at this problem. Hopefully, guys, this is starting to click for you. This one's probably the hardest one of them all. So don't be discouraged if this one's kind of tricky for you. But we're going to do it. So 30 degrees, this would be n. 90, this would be 2n. In root 3. Now, which one do we know about? We circle what is given. This is what's given. Now, this is very important, so I hope you're listening. We need to make an equation. Notice how we did this before. We always set, like here we set 13 equal to 2n. Here we set n root 3 equal to 4 root 3. So we got to do the exact same thing. We're going to have n root 3 equals 2 root 5. We're going to set those equal to each other. Now, some common mistakes I've been seeing on this. People will write something like this. N root 3 equals 2 root 3. Where did that root 3 come from? You just made it up. That's not a thing. Or some people will say n equals 2 root 5. What happened to the root 3 over here? What happened? You're just writing. Stop thinking. Stop thinking. You're just writing this thing. You're writing this thing, and you're setting them equal to each other. Stop thinking so much. Now, is n by itself right now? It is not. So we need to solve for n. Divide both sides by root 3. We'd have n equals 2 root 5 divided by root 3. Now, lovely, okay, n's by itself, but look at that madness. It gets ugly real fast, okay? Now, this is why in 7.1 I harped on how to rationalize the denominator. So the reason I can't circle this as my final answer for n is because there is a square root on the bottom. There's a square root on the bottom. So if you look at your steps for getting rid of a square root on the bottom, you multiply the top by the radical from the bottom. So you're going to multiply the top by root 3, and then I'm going to free the radical from the denominator. So on the top, here's what I would get. 2 just stays there. 5 and 3 are both under the radical, so 5 times 3 is going to be 15. And then the 3 has been freed from the radical. So instead of a square root of 3, I'm just going to have 3. Okay. If you're struggling with that, maybe try rewatching the 7.1 video. But basically, here's what we have. We have n equaling all of this madness. Now, it looks like a lot, but it is a lot. That's what n equals, though. That's what we just figured out. 2 over 3 can't be simplified, by the way. That's why I'm just sticking with it. So now, wherever I see n, I'm going to replace it with that. So instead of n right here, I'm going to replace those both. So instead of n, I'm going to have all this. So that's going to equal x. X equals 2 root 15 over 3. Okay? Now, what about this one? Instead of this one, I'm going to have 2 root 15 over 3. So is my answer for y just that, 2 root 15 over 3? No. 2 times 2 would equal 4 root 15 over 3. That's going to equal y. Okay. So once I found n, notice how I plugged it in here. I plugged it in here. This one's pretty simple. It's just the answer. This one, you got to multiply it by 2. Okay, let's do the very last problem and then we'll be done. All right, across from 30 degrees is going to be n. Across from 90 degrees is going to be 2n. Across from 60 degrees is going to be n square root of 3. Okay, what do we know? We're going to circle what is given. This is what's given. We're going to just set those equal to each other. So essentially, n equals 3 root 2. That's the equation we just created. These are the easiest, right? Look, n's already by itself. We're good to go. So we're just going to plug in n wherever we see n. So instead of 2n, we're going to have 2 times 3 root 2. All right, so let's do that one real quick. X is going to equal, it's 2 times n, which is 3 root 2. How do we simplify this? Well, 2 and 3 are both just numbers without a radical, so that would be 6. We're going to multiply those together. Root 2 just stays like that, so we get 6 root 2. Okay. Now, this one, I'm going to replace n with 3 root 2. Still going to have root 3. So notice here, I just replaced n with 3 root 2. Now here, on this one, we multiplied 2 and 3 because they were both outside of a radical. Here, 3 doesn't have anything we can multiply with. But 2 and 3 are both under a radical, so this can become 2 times 3 under the radical, which becomes 3 root 6. Okay, so y is going to equal 3 root 6. All right, guys. So for your practice, you're going to be working on pages 12 through 14. Your test is going to be 10 questions, multiple choice. You totally got this. You're going to need to come prepared, though. There are a few bonus questions on the test as well. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you later.